Tonight, the shopping mall massacre, the warnings the killer left behind.
We have confiscated the notes.
He made a comment a couple times, said he wished he was dead.
How safe are you when you shop in your local mall? I'm Katie Couric, also tonight getting inside the minds of the men and women running for president.
Besides your family, what are you most afraid of losing?
Our special series, Primary Questions, Character, Leadership, and the Candidates.
Daddy!
And a homecoming for an American hero.
When he comes home, we have to cuddle him all day.
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
Good evening, everyone. They were just like you and your family and your neighbors. The 8 men and women gunned down at that Omaha shopping mall. The businessman stopping at the mall on his way home. The youngest victim from Moline, Illinois, who would have celebrated her 25th birthday in just 2 weeks. The mother of 3 who took a job as a gift wrapper because she enjoyed being surrounded by the holiday spirit. Tonight, we know more about the man who shattered that spirit with gunfire before taking his own life. Dean Reynolds is at the scene at West Roads Mall, which is closed while this investigation continues. Dean, what's the latest?
Good evening, Katie. Well, tonight there is mounting evidence that the worst day of murderous violence in the history of this state was the premeditated work of a troubled teenager.
A high school dropout who had lost his job and his girlfriend in the span of 2 weeks. Police said the 19-year-old left behind warning signs in text messages, telephone calls, and notes to friends leading up to the bloodbath.
We have confiscated the notes. They do provide us with some indication that this incident was premeditated.
The shooter was estranged from his family, had a record of petty crimes, and had most recently been living with friends at this suburban home.
Depression. He had depression. But and he made a comment a couple times, said he wished he was dead when certain things happened in his life.
It's here that Deborah Maruka Kovac, the friend's mother, found an emotional suicide letter, expressing love for his parents and friends, but also hinting at a darker side.
He wrote that, I've been a piece of shit all my life, now I'll be famous.
His means to achieve fame involved stealing an assault rifle like this one from his stepfather, and possibly sneaking it into the mall under a sweatshirt.
It appeared to be rather random, certainly very spontaneous.
Police said the shooter entered the mall twice on Wednesday, the first possibly to check it out, but the second clearly to act. And the moment the elevator carried him to the 3rd floor, he began shooting. Witnesses told CBS News the first volley was toward the children's clothing section, the second at people on an escalator from the 2nd floor, and the last at the customer service area, where shoppers and workers were shot at the counter where gifts were being wrapped. At least 30 rounds were fired. Police responded in just 6 minutes, but by then, the victims and the shooter were dead.
There was a private security force on duty at the time of the shooting, but Katie, none of the guards was armed.
Dean Reynolds in Omaha, Nebraska tonight. Dean, thank you. The victims were all doing what people do every day, shopping or working with no reason to believe they were in danger. There are more than 1,200 major enclosed shopping malls around the country. How safe are they? Here's our national correspondent, Byron Pitts.
This is amateur video from the last mass murder at an American shopping mall. 5 people killed at a mall in Salt Lake City, Utah in February. Then, like now, those who specialize in mall security, like Richard Conklin, will evaluate what can be done differently.
It's difficult, especially in our society. We live in a free society. We've had some members of the Israeli security forces here at this mall and going over security. Their security is much different. As you enter the mall, you go through metal detectors, you go through pat-downs.
But in America, most believe that would not work.
I don't want to see armed guards walking around the mall.
Like most malls across the country, almost every inch of public space in this mall is covered by surveillance cameras. High-tech equipment that can zoom in on a license plate in the parking lot, follow a suspected shoplifter through the mall, or hone into a suspicious person. Just like the mall in Omaha, unarmed uniformed security guards and off-duty police officers are the first line of defense. Today at the country's biggest mall, the Mall of America in Minneapolis, it was business as usual. In Walnut Creek, California, east of San Francisco, experts point to societal issues.
It really wasn't about shopping centers. It was about going to a place where there were a lot of people.
In the aftermath of mass killings across the country, some procedures have changed. Officers no longer wait for a shooter to come to them.
Instead of the old-fashioned way of staging, to actually go in and hunt this active shooter.
You become the aggressor as opposed to waiting passively by to see what they do next.
You have to.
A haunting possibility in this season for hope and joy. Byron Pitts, CBS News, Stamford, Connecticut.
Turning now to tonight's CBS News Money Watch, foreclosures have hit an all-time high. A report today says 994,000 homes were in foreclosure in the third quarter of this year, due in large part to the crisis in subprime mortgages. Today, President Bush spelled out his plan to help at least some people hold on to their homes. Jim Axelrod has more.
Violet Street, La Mesa.
Across America, homes in foreclosure are being sold on courthouse steps.
Are there any qualifying bidders, please?
With a record number of foreclosures last quarter, under pressure from Wall Street and Main Street, President Bush offered some unprecedented help.
This will be a time of anxiety for Americans worried about their mortgages and their homes. There's no perfect solution, but the homeowners deserve our help.
The help is aimed at homeowners with subprime adjustable mortgages and those low teaser interest rates. Those low rates would be frozen for 5 years. The White House says the freeze and other refinancing programs would help more than 1 million homeowners stave off foreclosure. It's an extraordinary step, but with limited impact.
Homeowners facing foreclosure drowning 20 feet offshore, and the administration just threw out a 10-foot rope.
He's talking about the 2.5 million other homeowners who've been late on their payments and are ineligible for the program, which is why Bruce Marks, whose group counsels at-risk homeowners, says today's action is important, but not nearly enough.
Well, it's a small step. It's really not going to have a significant impact on the millions of homeowners who are at risk of losing their homes.
There is more help on the way. The Federal Reserve now says it'll have a new set of rules in place by the end of the year to govern subprime loans and try to keep more people from so much trouble. Jim Axelrod, CBS News, the White House.
Wall Street gave the mortgage deal a thumbs up. The Dow Industrials gained 174 points, the Nasdaq 42. In other news, a Pentagon audit out tonight shows more military equipment is unaccounted for in Iraq, about $1 billion worth, the result of shoddy paperwork. In one case, 12,000 weapons meant for the Iraqi security forces disappeared, including assault rifles and grenade launchers. So did more than 2,000 electric generators, and 18 tank recovery vehicles, tow trucks, were lost when their ID numbers were not recorded. There is much more CBS News ahead, including a personal question and some very personal answers in our special series, Primary Questions, Character, Leadership, and the Candidates. It's 4 weeks to the Iowa caucuses, and as we get closer to the first votes of this presidential campaign, we're trying to show you a different side of those who would be president in our special series, Primary Questions, Character, Leadership, and the Candidates. It's a window into their human side. For this series, we put the same 10 questions to each of the leading contenders. Tonight, their responses to this one.
Besides your family, what are you most afraid of losing?
My country. I lived without my country for a period of time, and that's when I fell in love with America, once I was deprived of her company. I think that it's the most marvelous place in the world with all our flaws and failing, and I'd hate to be deprived of this of the United States of America.
What I'm most afraid of losing is my enthusiasm for being a public servant, mainly because that's all I've been. I've only been in politics and government. And I wake up every morning wanting to make a difference. And I worry about the day when I lose that motivation and I may want to take it easy. And that's what bothers me, losing the motivation, losing the interest in having power to do the right thing.
Freedom, mobility, being able to take care of yourself, being able to be responsible for yourself. I move around, I get around. I'm very aware of what's going on around me, and when I see some of the illnesses now that people have in old age, it gives you a certain feeling that this is going to happen to me, and I wonder how you're going to deal with it. But my mom lived until she was in her 90s, and she was very, very active. She read 4 newspapers a day until she got to be about 89, 90, and then she was in and out, and I used to really feel for her because I know she wanted to be the way she was, and she couldn't be.
My integrity, my reputation for being honest, straightforward, keeping my word, and I think that's the thing I'd be most worried about. And that's the dangerous part of being involved in national politics.
Why?
Well, because sometimes it can be characterized unfairly as you having broken your word or you not being a person of honor. And unless you have had some staying power, unless people have had an opportunity to view you over a period of time, you run the risk of being subject to your life being reduced to a snapshot rather than sort of a motion picture. In my neighborhood, a promise made is a promise kept, and I've sort of built my entire image of myself for me based on that.
My family is my life. My wife and my kids are what my life is all about. And I don't think I'm going to lose them, but I'm going to be sad being away from them when the end of life comes. I'm concerned about the future of America. I'm concerned about America losing its place as the most powerful military and economic entity upon the earth. I'm concerned about America losing its way, losing its goodness, losing its ability to lead the world from a position of moral strength. And so it's important to me to see both the protection of my family and the strength of America.
My health. I worry about someday not being as healthy and vigorous and having as much stamina and resilience as I have. I'm blessed in having an 88-year-old mother who is in good health and lives with us, and yet I see so many of my friends unexpectedly fighting health problems, some not making it. So I'm very conscious of what happens as you get older and you see people's health that used to be perfect begin to deteriorate. So I try to keep focused on that.
My health, no doubt about it. And I almost did that. In fact, I did do that. And about 5 years ago, when my doctor set me down, diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, told me that if I didn't change my lifestyle, I had really the beginnings of my final decade of life. And it scared the daylights out of me. And he described for me what diabetes was going to do. Well, I took an aggressive action against it and was able to reverse it.
You lost a lot of weight.
Yeah, 110 pounds over the course of about a year, and did something I never thought I would do, and that's start exercising and eventually running. Now run 4 marathons, and I'm scheduled to run the Boston Marathon next April. And my wife had cancer our first year of marriage. We've been married now going on 34 years, but we were still in college. It was a very tough time because you don't think that's going to happen to you when you're 20 years old. And it was a real shaping point of our lives as well, because you really do understand that if you lose your health, you lose everything.
I mean, I would be concerned about losing my conscience, my integrity, doing something that I knew was contrary to what I believed, that took away who I am as a human being.
I'm surprised you didn't say your health.
Yeah, I don't actually worry a great deal about losing my health. And maybe that's because of what's happening with Elizabeth, what's happened with our family. But I really don't spend any time thinking about that, honestly.
I'm not afraid of losing anything besides my family. There's safety. I mean, when you say besides, I mean, that's a real big besides. I think about it all the time. Jerry flies with me sometimes, and I think about what would happen if something happened to us, the children being that young. I think about when she flies separately from me. I think about our children, at home, driving to the supermarket and things like that. I think about that a lot. Other than that, I only think about myself in terms of lost time with them. But other than that, I'm not afraid of dying, and I'm not afraid of anything else. But I'm petrified at the thought of anything happening to one of them.
My good name. You know, I always am thinking about making sure that at the end of my days, when people look back, they can say, here's somebody who operated with integrity, here's somebody who was honest in his dealings with the American people and with his colleagues, and you know, that's very important to me because I think that it's the thing that, especially when you're in public life, you know, is always threatened, because I think people are watching you carefully, and I always want to make sure that I'm, you know, all the people who are taking the time to support me and work so hard on my behalf, that I'm living up to their expectations, which doesn't mean that I'm not going to make mistakes, but it does mean that I want them to feel confident that I'm working in a way that will make them proud and justify that trust.
And you can see more of these responses on our website. Go to cbsnews.com, click on CBS Evening News, and you'll find the video posted there. Next week, the candidates respond to 2 more questions. Do they think the warnings about climate change are overblown or not? And with the country fighting a costly war and going deeper into debt,
should the American people be expected to sacrifice more? And if so, specifically how?
But coming up next tonight, Mitt Romney tries to rescue his campaign in Iowa by discussing matters of faith.
I will serve no one religion.
In his much anticipated speech on religion today, Mitt Romney mentioned his religion only once. Here's Bill Whitaker.
Dogged by questions about his faith and slipping in crucial early polls, Republican Mitt Romney, running to become the first Mormon president, defied even his own staff and today sought to answer his critics and allay voters' fears.
If I'm fortunate to become your president, I will serve no one religion, no one group, no one cause.
Introduced but not endorsed by the first President Bush at his Texas library, Romney gave a speech heavy on America's history of religious tolerance, but light on his Mormon beliefs.
To do so would enable the very religious test the founders prohibited in the Constitution. No candidate should become the spokesman for his faith.
The hand-picked crowd praised him.
We're all together under one God. I think that that's the most important message.
But the target audience isn't here, it's in Iowa, where some 40% of Republican voters in that crucial caucus state are evangelical Christians, many of them skeptical of Mormonism. And where ordained Baptist minister Mike Huckabee is topping Romney in the polls.
But also to every child of God.
Undecided Christian conservative Ken Veenstra said the speech left him with more questions than answers.
He has to explain the foundation, the roots of the Mormon faith.
Honor God.
Romney's speech was reminiscent of the one John F. Kennedy gave in 1960 when he was running to become the first Roman Catholic president.
I believe in an America that is officially neither Catholic, Protestant, nor Jewish.
Kennedy, already the nominee at the time, took tough questions from the audience, something Romney didn't do. Kennedy swayed the critics and won the election.
Thank you.
The question tonight, will Romney's less confessional speech have the power to soften skeptics' hearts too? Bill Whitaker, CBS News, College Station, Texas.
And still ahead, a heartfelt homecoming. Finally tonight, this is the season for reunions and homecomings for families who have been apart to come together. But some homecomings are just a little more special than others. From Columbia, South Carolina, here's Mark Strassman.
All right, are we in? Okay.
The Moorhead kids thought, no big deal. Grandma's taking us to pick up Mom at the airport. Little Joe's 18 months old, Anna's 8, Isabel's 4. But Mom brought home a big surprise. A soldier just back from Iraq.
Daddy!
Oh, I've missed you guys.
Daddy!
Bill Moorhead, an Army reservist, went to Baghdad 4 months ago. There, he's a master sergeant. But here, his girls run the show.
I want to cuddle with Daddy.
You want to cuddle with Daddy?
When he comes home, we have to cuddle him all day. It's home, it's home, it's home.
Moorhead's deployment is a family sacrifice.
Daddy, come upstairs!
The sad part is you start forgetting things, you know, little things they used to do, the way they used to smile.
Daddy, look, you haven't seen this.
And then when you see them in person, it's just like, yeah, wow.
It was all's well in the world because Daddy's home.
Let's go.
At Anna's school, Moorhead service has become a lesson in patriotism.
I pledge allegiance to the flag.
Students wanted him to deliver their letters to soldiers.
Thank you for keeping us safe.
I'll make sure that these letters go to all the other soldiers that I'm over there with.
But those letters also reminded Anna, next week, Daddy goes back to Iraq.
Give your daddy good girl. You good in school? Straight A's, you know.
Mark Strassman, CBS News, Columbia, South Carolina.
And that's the CBS Evening News. I'm Katie Couric. Thank you for watching. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
For news 24 hours a day, click on CBSNews.com. Brought to you in part by Crest White Strips Daily Multicare. This is the only 5-minute strip that brightens your smile in 3 ways. All with just 5 minutes a day. Crest White Strips Daily Multicare.